not, but and look at everybody parachute in the
They're
minute I
all
said
coming
time
now.
zone. Yeah, I said time zone change, and everybody just like dropped in like paratroopers.
So how are you guys? How's everything? Hello.
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 Yeah, I said, how are you guys? How is everything?
Sorry, dude. I didn't hear that. I think it cut off when you said that. Doing okay. Tired, but good. Busy, but good. Just, I guess, good. You?
All good, man. All good. Just sad my visa is still not here. I wanted to be at Breakpoint. Still sitting here though.
Yeah.
That has been a challenge this year. I didn't realize that it will be so tough. I presented my application back, like, I think 25 days back. I've never heard that it takes that long, but this year it has been really difficult getting a visa. Getting a Dubai visa rejected is like the first that we've heard of. And this time they are rejecting left, right, and center for everybody.
Huh. When you make the visa application, what was the reason? Do you recall?
They, I think because of the new FATF rules, Dubai has gone some few changes in their application system. What they are doing is they have blacklisted a few cities, especially in Pakistan. They've blacklisted a few cities, and it might be because of that I didn't get mine. I'm not sure. I did email
Yeah.
the embassy to explain why is it happening, because if something is wrong, then I need to fix that, because I can't have it that every time I apply for a visa and it gets rejected. So I don't think that's a very good way of doing it. So I asked them to tell me what's the issue so that I may fix it, but they haven't responded as of yet. It's been a week since I emailed them.
Yeah, I hear you. I hear you, and I understand. I was just asking if there was a particular, like, say everything went smoothly and the visa went in, and it's you put something on it that said, I'm going to Breakpoint in Portugal, you know, and you hear a lot of people say, I didn't get my visa. It's like, you think it might be crypto? I doubt it, but you never know, right?
No, I think the overall global scenario nowadays is like leading this whole situation to change. Like, they are actually doing their due diligence before calling people in. And since I don't have a very massive travel history, I think that's also adds to this problem. Because if you have a traveling history, then it's easier to get a visa anywhere. So I was
Yeah.
discussing it with my travel agent the other day that I need to like start first get visas for places where I can easily get them, at least visit a couple of times over a period of 3 4 months, which I would consider that as an investment, because I can't just leave my passport without any visas for the next 2 years and then expect to get a visa just like that, especially in these changing circumstances. So I
Yep.
think we'll have to strategize even our traveling now from now on. And this is a global phenomena because of this war and everything.
Yeah, I think there are a lot of interesting dynamics with what's going on globally, and who
True.
knows? If this were 2019, we'd be having a very different conversation, for obviously. But
Exactly,
I,
exactly. Like I remember there were times back in 2015, 16, I was traveling to Dubai every weekend. And it used to be like I used to apply for my visa on Thursday morning, get it at Thursday evening, and my flight used to be in the night. So I
right.
have traveled like on that short notices. But since I haven't been out of the country for the past 4 years, which is especially because of COVID, I kind of stopped traveling for the past two
Yeah.
years, 2.5 years. So this was my first application for traveling abroad again, and it got rejected. And now the Schengen visa is also taking its time. So I might get it after 10 days or so. but it won't even really matter. Now the problem is that if I don't travel on a valid visa and it gets expired, then I'll have trouble applying for a visa again next time. So if I
Right.
get my Schengen visa, let's say 10 days later, so I might just have to, spend all the money, go to Europe just to make sure that I have a legit visa for if the next time I apply again. So it's getting complicated overall, especially
I,
for third world
I hear you.
countries like mine.
Yeah, I I understand what you're saying, and it sounds
Sad.
like there's a lot there. No, I know but if I could think of, I guess I need to think about how you could solve that problem, like if and when it comes through. How long do the visas last for?
It depends. Tourist visas generally go from 15 days to 3 months. Depends on how much time have you applied for and what
Got it.
exactly is your agenda for traveling. Like if you're
Yeah.
getting a business visa as a tourist, then you might get for 3 months. But if you just want to go and travel and, visit a place, then they'll give it to you for a month at max, I guess.
Ah, yeah. I think it's like two. Last I checked, it was 2 months somewhere else, and it's plus or minus, I guess. But remains
Yeah.
to be seen. Remains to be seen. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. I'm
Yeah.
sorry to hear that you and Avid had, I think, trouble with the visa process, and I know it's not easy and it sucks. And I there was a call we had done one day where I was talking about running to go renew a passport because of the rules. Right, you can't have a passport that expires within 6 months of travel. Let's say, just as an example.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think there is that kind of a rule as
There's
well.
that rule too, right? So even if imagine you got through all these hurdles and everything went smooth, and then
Your
you get to
passport is about to expire.
you get to the airport, and you've waited. Maybe it took 6 months to get the visa, right? And you get to the airport, and they're like, "Nope, no, enjoy your day." It's like, wait, I need to get on the plane. No, you can't. It's like, okay, thank you. Bye.
I think we have enough people to start the call.
Yeah, yeah, we definitely do. We definitely do. Sorry, I was just rambling on there.
No, it's all right. It's all right. Okay, so who's going to start? I think you should take the lead.
Legend,
Yo,
would you like to start?
I mean, start for like.
Because
I
I know there's
suppose the
always something
agenda
you
for
could bring up.
today. I mean, the agenda for today is the same as the last Tuesday DAO call, which is Saga phones update. What's the update on the Saga phones for the DAO members and
I think
committed.
we yeah, I think there have been a couple of updates. I know CryptoPause got an update. I know we tried doing something through Realms. So the first thing was we tried to issue one of the mints using the Realms DAO minting authority or capability of using it, and the instructions, if I recall, did not go through. So there was some type of error. So it wouldn't let us do whatever that process was on behalf of the DAO. Maybe if we were a single individual, maybe that would have been possible, but it didn't.
Yeah, that's what we
That
discussed last Tuesday. Like, but any new
that happened.
uh,
Oh, sorry. I thought that happened. Oh, that you got okay. I thought we did that. Following that, I might have missed Tuesday's that part of Tuesday's update because I had to drop a little earlier.
I mean, what's important is to get the mint NFTs for the Saga phones, and later on, when the distribution starts, we then start, deciding on who gets and who doesn't get. That's the only important aspect, I think, for this subject. But that's me, at least my opinion. uh,
Yeah.
if the saga discussion is finished, if nobody wants to, further
Well,
discuss. I mean, there's nothing to discuss aside from the new updates on how to meet them via realms and how to look at them. That's the only discussions around the
it,
saga phones. So it's nothing.
yeah, I mean, if I recall, Sebastian responded to CryptoPause that saying that,
Yeah, I saw that.
yeah, unfortunately, you have to wait. However, the offer for the DAOs won't expire, so there's no cutoff time. So, I mean, yeah, it'd be nice if we could get them, but
Yeah, it's
it's
not.
not like we're not going to be able to.
It's fine since there's no time limit for the DAOs to order them,
Yeah.
so we
No,
can.
it's good that you're following up on it. I'm not trying to
I
sweep it under
mean,
the rug and say it's not something we should follow up on. It's good that you're asking. I'm not entirely sure either.
someone gotta follow and bring it up. So.
Yep, that's good.
I mean, Dean just sent a message that they won't be able to join the DAO call since the Lighthouse workshop is gonna start. And so yeah,
Mhm.
understandable. And another topics to talk will be about the mint, the full grape supply by Billy, which I don't think I can explain the proposal by by itself. We also talked about on Tuesday about the proposal, and the
Mhm.
other one is the upcoming Grape token mint and thoughts, which is almost related to the Billy proposal.
Hey guys, how's everyone?
Hey,
Hey yo.
good. How are you?
Hello.
Good, good. So about the mint, yeah, we did go over the proposal on Tuesday. Um, there is no alternative proposal currently on the DAO, but after giving it a lot of thought, it seems it's very important to go over our tokenomics, um, and the issue we have with the governance power in the community. That there's a big the fact that the team location's unlocked and we haven't properly distributed all the grape as a community. Those things definitely need to be addressed. And the mint question of what we should do is related to this. If the DAO decides to change the tokenomics for whatever reason, and we mint and we set up the vesting schedules, we're basically stuck with the current tokenomics that we have.
Right.
So that's another disadvantage of just minting the full supply and sending it to 1 billion grape. But this is not something that we could solve in a DAO call.
Right.
I would like more feedback in general, what everybody thinks. Should we make a bounty to revise our tokenomics first? We could make a big bounty for that, and only if the DAO votes for the revised tokenomics would that bounty be rewarded. It wouldn't go through the classic bounty procedure, because I think this is a major issue which we haven't really taken seriously as a DAO, and we have the ability to revise
Mhm.
if we believe the tokenomics are flawed for whatever reason.
I think that should be something that we put forward as a proposal for the discussion, and I agree. It's something. It's something I know we've seen in passing as we've talked about other topics, but now that we're at this point, especially now with what we're discussing, it
No, I
is
mean,
it is important.
the reason why I think it's important to look over the different options we have is, I think Dean mentioned that if for whatever reason somebody doesn't want to have the responsibility to hold the mint authority for the next 3-4 years,
Right.
why should they be forced to do that? And he's right. I mean, maybe we should figure out a process where people that don't want to contribute, you know, we don't need to wait 4 years to figure out, you know, who's going to contribute and who's not.
Right. Right.
No, I think my two grapes on this would be that eventually we would require a change in our tokenomics because, and that depends on the growth of our DAO as well. If the growth is more than what we had initially anticipated, then we would run out of token liquidity pretty sooner than what we had initially expected. I don't think a complete change in the whole system is necessary at this point. I haven't done my study to actually have an opinion on it, but I do think revisiting the whole process is necessary at this point rather than later, and then face with a problem later on. So it's better that we go through it through a proposal and see if there are things that need to change in some way or the other. And
Yeah.
uh,
If if it were, I'm sorry to interrupt. I want to add to that because I think if it were a bounty, it would have to be pretty specific on what it is that it needs to detail and outline. Like
yeah, I
I,
think
I
I
don't.
think let's not go for the bounty right away. First, let's have a discussion where a few people from the DAO actually revisit our tokenomics, come up with a better system if they can, and if it makes sense, then you put on a bounty and vote on it. That whoever you know proposal is selected or however you want to do it. We can discuss that over the over time, but that's how I'm thinking about it because we don't
Understood.
know. Uh, Sorry, continue. Sorry, first finish up and then I'll speak.
No, no, please. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, 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 that's fine. I'm just rambling here. I'm just thinking out loud. I don't exactly have a plan in my head. All I'm saying is that we do need to revisit sooner or later. So it's better that we do it sooner before something actually starts happening with our tokenomics, which give us some sort of issues later on.
Yeah, I think I would agree with that because I think the bounty would be an idea that would start to bring people in, and you know, I would imagine there's a lot of people that want to try and talk about tokenomics, and I can't remember who tweeted this, but it might have been one of the guys from Paradigm that said, "You remember like 98% of the projects that had the tokenomics discussions, and most of them didn't really build a tokenomics model that worked, right? The majority, 99%, I think, would be the more accurate estimate here. I think as a DAO, we have a lot of talent here to potentially even raise that question internally first as a group and have the DAO really get involved in talking about it. And when I say the DAO, the whole DAO, start the
Yeah,
Discord
and
thread,
just to
start
give
the
some
discussion.
more context, we don't have any legal obligations towards any like investors, and that we have to follow a specific 10-year plan or whatever. The only limitation we have is that the token should never go over 1 billion grape. So if it's something we could do to improve the tokenomics, I think everybody would be on board, and it would create more, I think, clarity on the participants in the DAO of what's going on. At the same time, we need to revisit and see like what are the benefits and disadvantages of just doing nothing.
Yeah. And I think it's also important to specify and break it down into the chunks, right? I think the community view of what to do with community emissions that were allocated in the original tokenomics would be a great place to start, because I think that's a really big underlying question of how do we deal with engagement? How do we ensure that we continue to reward the community, right? As a group, as a DAO. You know, the concept, and I've brought this up a couple of times in the past, and we have proposals that are sitting that started the conversation, but I realized even though there was a model to use, it might not have been the best model to go with because we didn't have some data that's important now. Reputation coming into the fold is going to be an important factor. You know, coming up with formulas to reward members for proposal voting, DAO engagement as an example. The amount of grape that needs to be allocated for bounties over the time, the history, right? That was just a hey, we need, you know, 400,000 grape to top up a bounty fund, but what does that look like over the next X number of years, right? That hasn't been assessed. That hasn't really been analyzed to say, yeah, there's a pool allocated for these versions, and I tried to go down that path in the past, and I don't know if it was the right one. I did have a little bit of resistance to some of the ideas that came up then, but it might be good to dust that off and bring it back up, just as a starting point of the conversation, right? Because that, when you start talking pools of what do we need to be able to provide support for, and what does the community want or view today, and what do we have to be mindful of in the future, because there might be something that comes up later that we didn't think about today, and we should probably take that into account, right? We have the concept of rewards, we have the concept of emissions, we have the concept of bounties. There's a number of other things that, you know, the grape token could be used for, or grape back tokens. There's a lot of dynamics to consider that weren't there when the original tokenomics were published for the community tokenomics, right? That's my opinion, or my two grapes, I should say, just to stick to our.
No, I completely agree with you on this. I think you have designated a very good point where we should start from, which is the community emissions, because at the end of the day, that is something that we, if we look at grape as a going concern and it's never going to end, let's assume that. So, we need a policy or some sort of tokenomics which keep on giving the community, to incentivize the community to actually keep on working with Grape. Otherwise, there will come a point that you'll stop giving them any incentive to actually work with Grape or on Grape for that matter. So I think, yes, I completely agree with you.
Yeah, and for me, focus is always going to be a key, right? Like, we have some pretty broad discussions about things, and it's very easy to get lost in the weeds, and people need a place to start always, whether it's troubleshooting. If this were a problem, we would need a place to start from anyway, so might as well hone in on the part that makes the most sense for us as a community. And also, I guess our vision and our mission as a DAO is to build the community and the engagement of Grape, right? How do we use what we have at our disposal to make that happen? And I
I
think that
agree
should
with you.
be the mission statement.
The other thing, Dimitri, is that the earlier we use, I think, the firepower that we have, which is the token and the treasury, to build and expand our community, the more impact it will have. So the longer we wait and do nothing, there will be
You're right.
less
You're
impact.
absolutely right. And I'm glad you're saying it, because it's what I'm thinking, and I'm not saying. I agree with you 100%.
Legend, what do you think?
I'm lost. We are talking about the meeting the grape allocation, but community part, right? The 60%, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
like if we focus on that, let's
okay.
start there.
So Nanka was talking about incentives, right? The only incentives I would give will be bounties, of course, and voting rewards on realms. So people who do bounties, people who vote, and maybe later on reputation. So there are the three
But
incentives I would give.
yeah, but you have to allocate a certain portion of, how much are you going to emit for a particular task or for a particular bounty. Like, we don't have unlimited grapes at the end of the day. There is a limited quantity, limited supply lying there, which might, finish up after let's say 2 years. So we have to plan out the tokenomics in such a way that it, extends to a certain time period, which we don't have to worry that, a certain task has taken more grapes and now we are reducing the emission of grapes for major tasks that or bounties that are being paid off. So, we need to find a balance somewhere.
Wait,
If
so what you're
if
talking about is a different completely topic. What
let me
incentives are incentives, but what you're saying is like revenue to keep giving out incentives. So that's a different topic which is also needs to be addressed and is something
Not
difficult.
not exactly revenue. I'm not saying that. I am saying that all tasks don't deserve the same amount of emissions, if you
if
get what I mean.
I
if
mean,
I can jump in here because I think this
Yeah,
might
sure.
clarify it, right? Right now, if you were to look at what we have as what is grape needed for today, right? How would people get grape to be able to get a GAN token, right? In the future, we as a community would want to make sure that there's a certain amount of grape allocated to that, and if maybe it comes from the community fund, but we need to put that on the docket, right? And say, where's that grape coming from? The grape coming from the bounty, how much grape do we need over the history, over the next X number of years, let's say until 2030, right? And let's plan it out that far ahead, right? And say, we need to have this much available because what happens if we use all that grape and we have no limits, right? Where do we find the grape from to be able to fund bounties once there's no more grape in this pool, right?
Yeah, exactly, exactly. I think you've
How do
hit the
we,
nail on the head.
how do we incentivize and I agree with you. The topics you brought up as focus is right. That's the right way to go about it. But there are other parts to it, right? And the time frame is the important part because we could say that today, I only need 400,000 grape for the bounty, in my opinion, and the DAO can agree. But what happens in 2026? Right? We used up all our grape because we did too many bounties. Let's say. I'm not saying we'll have that problem because we need to have a lot more people engaged, but making sure that it's adequate to be able to support it so that it survives us, right? If we were to remove ourselves,
There needs to be mechanisms in which grape could return to the treasury in some way.
right,
I agree with this as well. I agree with this as well.
revenue.
right.
That's like the end of the topic. Revenue, like
Yeah,
or
inflow, right?
yeah,
It's
inflow.
the yeah,
Basically,
it's
or
inflow.
you get another investment from the
Yeah,
community allocation, or you get like I don't know. There was a like 1 month ago or 2 months ago, by Billy said, so Grape should make maybe a Grape M Sol pool, and like Sol goes up and in a bull market, Grapes goes up. That's like another option for Grape to be valued more, maybe from the fees. I don't know.
yeah. Funny thing, I think Coinbase opened up liquid staking for MSOL recently,
Yeah,
just as an example. So
that's very cool for you, like Coinbase users.
yeah, it's
Uh,
very interesting. Just as an example, I'm not saying that that's important to focus on, but it's like, okay, an exchange thought about it.
Another inflow will be the validators revenue, the API. So we staked the
Yes,
Sol and we get some Sol back. Of course, it's not a lot, but it's inflow.
In in that case, in the MSOL Grape pool, the grape wouldn't go in the treasury, just the value of grape would go up. And the example that you're mentioning now, also, that the grape doesn't go to the treasury, it's just, it changes the dynamics in how the token can be obtained.
Yeah, I'm just throwing out examples of,
Yeah,
inflow
it's
can be attained. Like I will fully support for a grape MSOL pool, for example.
One
Yeah.
idea which I was thinking about, if we ever made up such pools, is instead of using our own token, which people would, um, abuse on Soul Farm, we could add rewards in or Marinade or MSOL. If, let's say, we did a MSOL grape pool, just to keep that pool going, because if we give out grape and grape is constantly being sold, there's no real benefit of maintaining that kind of pool.
Do we really need incentives for the pool? Grape can make it its own pool, and
No, you don't need incentives, but if we want to diversify our USDC pool to move to this pool, it would give an extra incentive to move your Grape USDC to Grape MSOL pool. And I think that would be the main reason, because as as a holder of the LP pool, you automatically have the benefit of holding MSOL, which is staked SOL basically, and you're holding Grape, which is you're supporting our community by providing liquidity, and you also could get rewarded by providing this liquidity. Now, I don't know if it makes more sense to maybe give a little bit of Grape and more like MSOL. I'm not sure what's the best formula, just to get people to actually see this. Like, it's more of marketing and awareness of this pool actually existing.
Yeah, I think getting everything on, I guess I don't want to say paper, but getting it all written down for the community to look at it and say, okay, we have cycles of outflows of grape, and we need to ensure inflows in some capacity to create that utility for the grape token to always have some type of method in which its use garners some type of value to the community, back to the community and back to the ecosystem in general, right? I think that's a really complicated concept to try and deal with each individual task alone. And zooming out, you kind of have to have a view of what are all the things we need it for, and where are the places where we need to allocate it to be able to promote the idea of being able to do certain things with the token that we do today. Right now, we're using Sol straight up, right, as what we're staking on the validator. So Sol and MSOL would be an important way of us being able to get Grape back directly, right? The whole USDC, Grape USDC pool on Radium, that whole discussion kind of opened my eyes to the notion that, okay, so if there is a pool, it needs to be something that's centered and focused around something that we have as an initiative, as a community to support, so that there's a way to get that grape back in some way, right? If we're earning Sol, I'd like to be able to turn that Sol back into grape as a DAO. And I'm saying I'd like to. I'm not saying that we necessarily have to, but it would be a good way to utilize our resources and the grape available to us, so that we always have the ability to get grape back as a DAO, right?
That's a very good observation, because let's say we have certain fees that are in Sol, and we would like to get them in our DAO treasury. Having the extra step of converting from Sol to USDC and then back to, it's an extra fee which it's not necessary for us to pay, and I
Yeah,
think there is a benefit of having, like, long term, to have a Sol or MSOL pool, because Sol is the native currency. It's not USDC.
right. And then we also have the sub-DAO tokens, which we could also enumerate here and say, you know, what are the things that are needed for people to use Grape art? What are the things for people to use Grape verification? What are the things that haven't been built yet that might need Grape, right? And allocate a certain amount of Grape there for usage and access for people to be able to get Grape to use it, because it is a utility feature of the token. There's governance and there's the utility, right?
The other thing I was thinking about is how we're designing these Grape-backed tokens. You know, currently the way we're designing them is they only have Grape. They don't have a pair, an LP pair. The the disadvantage of that is that when we do in these sub-DAOs, when there are payouts, you know, somebody will have to sell their Grape and convert it to USDC, you know, for, you know, to live, and that doesn't make sense. If like these services are built in with the LP as the token backing the token, the Grape back token, you would just take from the LP, you would just take the USDC or the SOL. You're essentially just removing that liquidity, but it doesn't affect Grape in any way. So as a contributor, you get the maximal benefit, you keep your voting power, and it doesn't. The value accrual continues to go to the token. So I think a good example of that would be a service DAO, let's say for moderators. Let's say we wanted to go to other communities and provide moderating services, you know, moderators as a service, and they would hold this token, which is they could be paying for. There could be a recurring payment monthly in this moderator token. This way would be sustainable both for the sub DAO, which they organize their treasury and they could use their voting power, and at the same time they could, you know, get paid for their work. So it just makes sense to have the incentives completely aligned and simple for the people actually providing the value, and at the same time it gives value to Grape as they're using the tokens to organize their DAO.
That's very interesting. Yeah. I would think about the user experience, right? That was the other side of it. Like I on face agree with the way that you're approaching it.
Yeah, no.
And think it makes sense.
The user experience today is bad for doing something like this. But if it was not, if we could abstract that from the user, which is the other DAOs that require the service, in such a way where it's uncomplicated. They just use their SOL or USDC to acquire these tokens on a monthly recurring basis. So the moderators in this case would have constant stream of revenue as long as they're providing these services.
Yeah.
So what I'm thinking is if we create a tool that could enable that, we would be able to use it for our moderators, which are already providing services in other DAOs. And other DAOs would want to use this tool to create their own tokens.
That's, my mind is a little blown right now because I'm thinking about all the dynamics you're mentioning, and it sounds like a great opportunity to figure out how that would happen and how we make it work seamlessly, right? It's not, I think there are things like that come up. That's how would we develop a process that makes it so easy for someone to just, you know, there's a widget now to talk about getting a GAN token from the Grape UI, right? Just as an example from the dashboard, let's say. How would it be that easy? Like, is it based on Strata? What if Strata, you know, we're inexorably going to end up tying ourselves to another protocol's success, right? And whether or not Strata continues to do what they do, I think they were acquired recently, or they're working with another team.
Well, it's open
with
source,
Helium,
and they're going to
Yeah.
continue. They're going to continue supporting the Strata protocol because the Helium network coming to Solana is basically creating a lot of Helium tokens. Like there's the mobile token. There's the
yeah. There's a lot there. And I'm glad that it's open source. I'm just saying, what if they, stop maintaining the repo, let's say, and someone else needs to pick it up to run sub
the
DAO
good news
tokens.
is that the SPL token 22 standard allows you to enforce, let's say, the fees, and the Solana swap program, which is what Strata is based on, already allows you to do most of the things. The only thing which is not there, which Strata has added, is the metadata for like to make them look like NFTs kind of, and I think the exit fee. I think that's the difference.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. Very interesting.
But other than that, I mean, the bonding curves and all that stuff you could do with a Solana swap program. It's very similar.
Yep. Very interesting.
So we're not
But it's-
limited to Strata long term, if that's what you're concerned about.
Oh, it wasn't so like, I love Strata. I think Strata's great. I'm just saying those are the types of things that when you're multi-year planning, just putting into the equation, thinking about.
No,
how do
I'm
we
not concerned about that because
got it?
they are actively going to continue. I think they're actively going to continue supporting Strata, and they're going to help improve also SPL governance.
Yep. That's good. That's good to call out. Okay, so it does sound like there's still some work to be done, and I think we have at least some semblance of focus that we could put time and effort into figuring out. For everyone's awareness, I've been working on a proposal for the voting and proposal rewards, and it's trying to take into account a novel view of reputation that would complement Scientist Joe's, but it needs to be tied to the specifics on the engagement of proposals and voting and making sure people can't game that system, along with a pool that would be allocated for rewards that we could plan out over the next X number of years. And, getting Grape back into the treasury from all the activities we're talking about somehow, and finding a way. I don't necessarily want to call out a tax that would have to pull Grape back in, right? But some type of virtuous cycles that basically require Grape to somehow flow back into the treasury that the DAO will have control over. The inflows of USDC and Sol are another piece to that puzzle, but
I mean, you can give all the rewards you want because the budget at the moment is unlimited. Honestly,
exactly.
we don't have a budget, so there's no
Exactly.
budget for bounties. Bounties can be any number. We don't have a
Exactly.
budget for rewards. Rewards can be any number. So budget needs
Yeah,
to be defined.
I agree, and that's going to be part of the equation. So the reward discussion, right, should also be accompanied by, hey, this is what it looks like in terms of budgeting over the next X number of years, and the tool I'm using right now.
No, the thing is, budget needs to be the first proposal because you can do rewards proposal without budget first. Because if you do rewards
you're
and
right.
the budget is the second, you need to rewrite your proposal again.
Yep.
I'm just saying.
No, dude, you're on point, and we're not disagreeing on anything you're saying. I'm factoring in what you're saying into the broader, those are part of the tactical initiatives. I think the strategic initiative is on point. You know, we need to come up with what's the strategy, and then come up with here are all the individual tasks and items. And I know if some other people were here, like CryptoPause and Dean and Whale's friend, we might be having a different conversation, that they'd offer up different views. But I think it's a good starting point for us to get that going, right? Give them the
I'm gonna
time
say an
to think
example.
about
If
it
we
and talk
had the
about it.
budget, let's say all the inflows per year we have and outflows, our current it's negative. Overall,
Yep.
I said
And that's
negative
because,
because most of them are maybe bounties at the moment. Because of course last year were the events, which didn't make sense at all. But
yeah, and
now are the bounties.
just to be clear, when we talk about this, I just want to share real quick as a reminder, and I'll share the document as well, but I'll just share this snippet. I just shared a screenshot of something that I had tried to put together in the past. I don't know if this is the right approach, everyone, so please don't take this as this is what we're going with, okay? This is just me putting things into context so everybody sees what it is I'm saying verbally, is just to visualize it in some form of a model that would probably need to be defined. And I'm not saying all of these things are important. These are just some of the factors that we have to take into account. And I don't think sub-DAO tokens are in here, but I could triple check. But coming up with some model of identifying what the strategic initiative is that we have as a group, and then figuring out the tactical approach to what do we do, right? And this is just for Grape token usage. This hasn't even taken into account any of the other usage of treasury. It hasn't taken into account, several things that Billy brought up, which I think are critical. And the concept on participation guidelines and the concepts that we still need to address. So I'll try and add that in, but I don't want the proposal for the rewards on voting and participation. Like, I'll try and focus on making sure that the rewards proposal includes a certain allocation for Grape over a specific set period of time, that we say, let's say it's 500,000 Grape every epoch, or from the way that we emit today, and then bake that into a projection.
I mean, we are emitting today by the monetary value it gives. So, I mean, we are giving maybe 50k Grape to a task with the monetary value in mind. So, like, if this task is worth 50 USDC, we're giving Grape in the same amount, which this is something we can do. Because imagine if Grape is 1/10 of a cent, we're like, maybe we're gonna give like 1 million Grape for maybe just writing I don't know, a text or something. That's gonna give you I don't know.
Right, and that could be a problem, right?
It is a problem, and still is, because everybody's gonna exploit that. I mean, even myself, I don't know. I'm gonna ask for 100,000 Grape for DAO recordings. Who's gonna stop me? I mean, there's no budget. I mean, obviously people gonna vote no. So, but yeah,
yeah, of course,
I
but
mean,
we shouldn't have that type of
if
ad
the DAO
hoc
wants to
behavior.
reward Grape, don't reward Grape in monetary value, or reward Grape in, I don't know, governance value maybe. I mean, 100 Grape is very
I
important to
also think that
the quorum change.
yeah, I agree, and I think the concept on amounts is one thing, right, versus percentages. Just to be clear, right? There's going to be a certain amount of Grape that's going to be available in the future in the treasury, right? We may get to a point where we run out of the amounts that are unsustainable for that future. But what's the goal of having these emissions or having this tokenomics is to get us to a place where the ecosystem is flowing, inflowing, outflowing, the way you just described, and then having that conversation at a later date. But I think the general premise is that there needs to be some simple view of this is what the ecosystem needs.
I mean, the thing is,
Here's how much grape
there's a
we're going to
lot of
allocate it.
problems, and I'm even myself, I'm seeing the problem. But if I'm not giving a solution, then it's gonna keep going. And I know this. The thing is, I don't know how to fix it alone. That's the thing. I'm giving all these problems.
No one can, and it's a good thing you're calling out the problem, right? Because that's what we need. We need to know what we're solving
people are
for.
calling the problem. But the thing is, nobody's fixing, even myself, because they might not.
We don't know the answer.
Yeah, we don't know the answer, and
Yeah,
the problem is gonna keep going. And
right, and no one knows the answer. There are ways in which you could focus on, hey, let's do this, and focus on trying to execute a task, whether you know it's right or wrong. And then there's the, hey, we spent time together to think about how we would do it, and we all agree, and let's go it. And if we fail, okay, we failed, but we failed together, right? It's not one person's idea or a small group's idea that made up the decision, and we are all accountable to the fact that we were participating in the discussion to help make it happen. And if it succeeds, we all share in that, right?
I mean,
And the success
overall,
is just
the
the
DAO,
sustainability of the ecosystem. That's it.
The DAO
It's not
itself,
like
the innovations and the things, it's all in the green side. Let's say it's all positive. But the financial side of the DAO is the hardest thing you can have in every DAO.
Yeah, and
the financial thing is the worst.
That's where I was going with it. Is that this? I won't view Grape's token price as the guiding principle that's going to tell me we're succeeding, right? I would view engagement. I would say that the more people we have engaged in the DAO, that's success. I would say the more we have development being built. We talk about bounties, right? But we have all these metrics that we've been talking about using, right? Reputation is one thing. Each one of the things that we're factoring into reputation are actually items that should be focused on individually. When I think about development, I would look at our GitHub and say, how many submits are there per developer, and why isn't that something that we'd be rewarding? If I look at the moderation, how much moderation is happening, and there's a sub-DAO that asks for allocation to be able to get rewarded for it, right? There are other sub-DAO tokens that are doing that naturally through Strata because they're taking a certain amount of Grape when somebody submits to transfer and get a token, like the GAN token. And if they try and take the token back, they have to emit some more Grape, right? to get it. All of that, just so that we don't get too lost in the weeds. Wrapping it all up and bringing it back closer to the conversation is, how do we do that when none of us have to talk about it, right? Like if none of us showed up in a month, how do we make sure the model does it itself? That would be the ideal state, right? Where no one has to make any decisions going forward because it's there. It's ready, and it could be reevaluated later if it's wrong or something needs to be tweaked. And I think we should always leave ourselves open to change or improvements if we find that there's something flawed in the model. Because I don't think we're going to do something perfect, but we should try to come up with something on each individual topic we're talking about, and then collectively put it together and say, okay, this is what it looks like for the whole ecosystem. And this is what it looks like for the whole tokenomics model.
Lost, and I've already forgot what you did to talk about.
Just focus on each individual topic, come up with a solution for each one, and then you bring it all together, you sum it up, and you say, that's how much Grape we need until 2030. That's what I'm saying for the community. That's it. Right? Because if you try and do a holistic view of everything at once, you might get it. You might get it right.
Deep. I mean, we just
that's
going
fine.
back to the initial conversation is mint the rest of the Grape supply, right? And the overall issue is the quorum change on realms, right? I might be wrong here.
Yeah, that's one of the issues.
That one. Okay, that's one.
The issue is that we haven't solved the community distribution, which is very important.
When you mean community distribution, what do you mean?
Well, how much Grape are we emitting, and who's receiving the Grape from the community? I mean, it seems that we're behind on that.
Exactly.
You mean the
And that's
overall
the
community
governance
who holds
rewards.
grape, or like only the DAO members? I don't get it.
In general, like we used to have the skill roles. Now we're gonna rename those to task-based emissions.
So DAO core
Similar.
kind of.
DAO core. Yeah, yeah, we
So I
could
mean, okay. So we
DAO
didn't give
core.
them by what? 2 months? 1 month?
I'm not sure when the last time we gave
So
those
for the
emissions.
community distribution, we can put on hold, like we've been doing now, and try to solve the main issue, which is the quorum change.
But the problem is the community, if they don't have the grape they're supposed to have, then the governance model doesn't make sense. Because the team will always have too much grape,
Okay.
and or we don't vote as a team, and the community just votes, which doesn't make sense either.
Can the quorum change be changed manually instead of automatically by the DAO itself?
Yeah, even if we manually change the quorum, though, there's a big gap. Like the team receives monthly, no matter what, around 4 million grape. So if the community is not receiving or getting a similar amount of grape monthly,
Right.
they're never going to be able to have a
Hit
voice
quorum.
in the DAO.
Well, there's also hitting quorum, right? Like, say you automatically adjust quorum, but it doesn't reflect reality on how much is staked and used in realms, right? We're going to end up running into this situation where you can emit as much grape as you like, right? We could figure out all those things. But if it's not conducive to how much engagement exists, we're going to end up having proposals that are going to go in, if we have an automated solution or changing quorum or manual updates, whatever, where the quorum's going to be too high and the voters aren't going to be enough to be able to pass
So we don't. If you
proposals.
don't give the community, the team is the issue, right?
Well, the quorum for the community was going up based on the community emissions. Now that the
Right.
team and the investors also are unlocking, the quorum, if we keep the same quorum at 4% of circulating supply, it's harder to attain. So we would have to lower it. But even if we lower it, the team and the investors proportionally have a much bigger allocation available versus the community which is participating and contributing. Like that
Exactly.
doesn't make sense.
And just to clarify what that means, it means that there's grape that's going to be out there, but it's not going to be used for the purpose of being able to run proposals. So we have to make sure that the quorum reflects what's actually being used. And also prevents any gameability in being able to pass a proposal as by a smaller number of individuals or, Sybil resistance, all that other stuff. Anyway, I won't go into that.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, if you, this is my opinion, but if you give most of the grape back to the community, it's gonna end back to the market. Most of it gonna be sold, and the quorum will be high, no?
The quorum would need to be lower if the grape wasn't being used, because then we would have a problem of grape that isn't in realms to actually pass the proposal. Right. On the other hand, somebody could go and take advantage of getting as much grape as they can because the financial terms enable them to, and they can come in and they try and pass the proposal by themselves because the quorum needed to be lowered because we don't have enough engagement against the backdrop of circulating supply. I don't want to complicate it, but it's not a simple.
It's already complicated by the way that
it's complicated, and I'm not making it that way, right? You have to factor all those things in when you start thinking about the governance side, and if not grape to the community that's participating is the important part, right? Those that are here, reputation, giving that conversation isn't small. That conversation is actually a solution to this.
Man, the solution is to give out Grape to community members. I mean, we have like what, 100 community members? We're gonna give what, 5 million to each one? It is an example. It's not
Yeah, but the
sustainable either.
reputation formula, it's going to take months to get it to work on Grape.
Exactly.
So what are we going to do in the meantime?
Yeah. That's the part that I see being the real problem, is figuring out the solution, and tackling each topic is probably the best way about it for us to get there. We're trying to chew off a bigger piece by looking at the broader problem rather than focusing on the individual parts to solve the community emission discussion, right? So that's my two grapes, and I'm doing what I can to contribute one part of the solution for the proposal on governance rewards, because I think that that's a direct part of this equation. And I know that there's more to it, and I know everybody wants to bring up other specific topics, but I could talk about this all day, and I don't want to waste anybody's time. I just want to, I'm speaking so that I can share what I'm thinking about it in case anybody's trying to tackle the problem. Just factor those things in when you're coming up with a solution. I'm not saying that it's not a solvable problem, right? I'm saying they're challenges, they're not problems yet.
Well, I see Tizal also asked, what are the top 3 things we want to accomplish in the next 3 months? She says, I have a few initiative ideas, most probably will post for discussion. Cool. So yeah, that's these are good questions that we need to answer as a community and as a DAO. Like, what are our priorities? Where do we see Grape in 3 months, in 12 months? And what does everybody want to volunteer to contribute in? So if we start the discussion from there, then it can make more sense. And okay, this is the model we currently have. How are we going to keep everybody happy to continue contributing?
Yep. Next step, I think, would be a nice idea would either create a thread in Discord so we can start the conversation there, start a wiki in discourse where multiple people can go and edit and add to this, right? And get the conversation going. And it might be trailing off of CryptoPause's discussion around the whole discussion on minting, right? It might be, hey, here's one task that we need to figure out as part of this equation and factoring it in. And I haven't had a chance to actually respond to that thread, but I've been thinking about it a lot. Getting the discussion going in writing might be the next step, because we could talk about this on every call for the next several months.
No, we shouldn't. We should set a deadline to, at least regarding the mint component, we need to decide what we're going to do, and if we need to revise the tokenomics or accelerate the vesting schedule, maybe there's benefits in doing that.
Yep.
Because if, let's say, we accelerated the vesting schedule and we brought everybody at the same level, so the governance power wouldn't be this issue that we currently have, that the team has too much grape and the community's behind. If we figure out a way to solve that and then set proper monthly community emissions, and we have a roadmap which we all agree on, we want to work on, that could make more sense.
I seldom disagree with you, so assume that my silence is a vote of confidence in what you're saying.
No, I mean, it might be something stupid, but we need to we need to see the alternative options before we decide to mint the full supply and continue on the current path that we are on. I think we have an opportunity, and the opportunity is now to do something about it, because all this time we've been looking at our tokenomics, like, okay, are they good, or are they not good? Can we improve them? We should be able to answer those questions. And if we're not doing something right, we could change course. We have that ability.
Is burning an option?
What do you mean, like burning? Like the rest of the supply, not minting?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not a big fan of burning in general because
I'm not saying burning for the.
No. I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just saying I don't know why to do that if we don't
The
know all the
issue-
other things.
The issue with that, Legend, is that we would still need to respect the 12% of supply, which would go to the.
Yeah, I understand. We will
investor.
respect the team, the investor allocation, but we'll burn it
Let's
from the
forget
community
the team.
side.
Let's forget the team, because the team and the DAO and the community
Yeah,
are
yeah.
one. Let's forget the team. The
Respect
only
the
part which is completely like fixed on stone is the investors of 12%. So if we take the current circulating supply, which is, let me check, because I don't remember that. The current minted supply is 130,248,500 grape approximately, and 12% of that is approximately 15.6 million grape in total. We haven't minted that much grape yet for the investors. So that, what you just mentioned, is an option. I don't know if it's the problem with that is that the grape that we have is the supply, basically.
Yeah, and the rest is on the market, so brand members will have to get from them, from the serum or the pools.
That's another proposal.
Yeah, I mean,
We have to look at all the options and see which one makes sense.
I'm just saying, like, involving burning is maybe getting an easier option and solve this. More grape involves more problems, I guess.
Yeah, and if we did something like that, we would need to look over and see what grape has been minted, where has it been allocated, if there's any grape that's not in the grape DAO treasury that needs to be there.
Yeah, what I was thinking, like, if you burn on the rest of the grape and keep the investor's grape, for the quorum change, we'll just need to think about the investors and their amounts and how they can impact the DAO with their amount of grape, and the rest is just the community itself, the DAO. That's the easiest approach I could think of, not a smart guy.
Yeah, but here's the quick way I'm looking at it, just to give one example, so we can look at it and say this is what we need to come up with between now and 2030. As of 2022 all the way to 2030, that's 8 years, 12 months. If we say an epoch is a month, that's 96 months in total for the entire 2022, right? All the way through to 2030. If every month we're going to be giving rewards of 500,000 grape to the entire community for governance rewards. That's going to be roughly 48 million, 50 million grape over the whole history of it.
What Legend said though,
Oh,
our grape would be just the grape that's in the DAO currently,
right.
and let's say all that was in one wallet. How much is it? How much grape do we currently have there?
Want to check to make sure I don't say the wrong number because we emitted some recently.
We have some on squads. We have some still on MeanFi. There's some more
Yeah,
to be there.
I think the dashboard Dean has shared. I'll share that as well because I think the answers are here. There we go. If you CryptoPause is raising an interesting point. If you burn the community supply, you hand over the DAO. Not saying that it wouldn't be worth to talk. Yeah. But I see in Dean's latest update, which was on 10/30 on this Treasuries dashboard. Let me just pull this all in one fell swoop. 6 million. No, wait. $27.9 million, I think, total of all the grape that's sitting in treasuries in different places. Council treasury, community treasury, agility fund.
Given that we're also behind on community emissions,
Right.
I think CryptoPause had mentioned we had actually emitted 20-something million grape. So if we also add this 27 million, let's say everything was emitted, the grape treasury wouldn't have anything to emit. It would just have the USDC afterwards, right? Or any returning grape to the DAO.
Yes, I think that's right. Yeah. I have some stuff set up in that Grape DAO metrics dashboard that I'm pulling now just so I could have maybe a more accurate view of what we have right now. But yeah, definitely needs
Well, the benefit with this model, let's say we figured out the exact allocations, and everybody that would have a more appropriate allocation based on their holdings, excluding the team. So 27 plus, let's say 22, 50. That's still, I think we're short 20%. The community needs another 20% to reach the 60%. So the treasury, we would need to mint another approximately 30 million grape on realms to do what you're saying, Legend.
Can you repeat, please?
Well, based on the tokenomics, the community would have to have at least an extra 30 million allocated. And the only fair way to do this would be basically to airdrop everybody this grape based on their current holdings, and whoever wants to leave, they leave, and whoever wants to stay, stays. So the supply wouldn't really increase a lot, but the allocations would be correct, and we wouldn't have to worry about this constant quorum changes.
I agree. At the end of the day, what we want is the quorum to be reached and to not be attacked by malicious entities, right?
Correct.
If we can achieve that by doing this, then
we need to. I mean, we need to for sure look into this proposal as an option. see all the benefits and disadvantages.
Sure.
Because I'm sure
It's on the table.
yeah, it's one more proposal on the table.
What's the deadline?
We don't have a lot of time to figure this out because if we continue the vesting schedules the way we're going, it's going to be a bit harder. We will just need to mint more grape. The more we delay, we need to mint more grape to do what you're saying.
So would we set the deadline for end of November, end of December?
I think a realistic goal is end of the year, given the impact this kind of decision has. It's we need to decide on what makes sense for our DAO, what's going to be sustainable. And this, if we did something like this, it's a major revision in the tokenomics. It's completely changing everything.
Change is good.
But I just want to point this out that there's one community member that has 2.6 million grape. And if we did the airdrop, they would probably end up having double that amount.
Is he in this DAO call?
I don't know.
I don't think. I honestly have never seen this person join a DAO call over the last, I don't know, several months. So if it is somebody I don't know who it is, so to speak, because they haven't really appeared anywhere.
So
My
he
knowledge.
has quite allocation from the quorum. Did he ever vote in the Realm proposals?
Yes,
Yep, and I think
that's why we noticed.
they've recently voted also.
Yep.
The bounty funding for squads.
Yep. Which, by the way, I think was a very successful proposal. 10 million grape voted. It was awesome. So they're obviously doing things that are good for the community. Not trying to call out somebody that's actually benefiting the community, but it's good to look at this as, what if they weren't, right?
No, I mean the wallet is public. I mean, you could take that wallet and you could go and see their history, and you'll see that whoever that this is, they bought their grape back in December, and we haven't given this grape out. It's not from the DAO. It's somebody actually bought the grape. That's all I've seen. So yeah,
Yep.
I think the benefit, Legend, of what you're saying is that if we did this correctly, grape would become a deflationary token.
Hmm.
Anyway, this is a very long discussion. I don't think we're going to be able to
Yep.
figure this out on the DAO call. Are you guys monitoring the updates on Breakpoint?
Trying to. There's a lot going on. Solana launching Google Cloud partnerships and validators, and the BigQuery updates I think were pretty big, right? Fire Dancer validator updates talking about how quick a validator could get in a controlled environment of, I think it was 1 million TPS is what they got in, testing. I think that was huge. It's a lot of interesting stuff. I don't know if you guys have been following anything you'd want to bring up, because I know the reputation discussion is happening, I think, today with Civic and Lighthouse DAO and Grape and anybody else that's participating in that. So I'm looking forward to hearing what they come away with from that. But other than
Yeah,
that,
that's in I think 30 minutes from now.
yeah. Anything you found interesting? Anything noteworthy?
I listened to a couple sessions actually. I was listening to a discussion on the royalties with Magic Eden, Metaplex, the guy from the Degens. Overall, it sounds like even Metaplex is on the optional royalty side trend, even though they're creating the standard to enforce royalties. It does sound that the general consensus is that the trend is optional royalties. So, we're jumping on that. Magic Eden said they're going to do everything to keep the liquidity on Magic Eden. So,
Speaking of royalties, the Bears Reloaded DAO passed the proposal to lower royalties from 10 to 5% and to close the reloader, I believe, which passed with a unanimous, almost a unanimous approval rate.
yep, they had 18 participants with 145, 146 NFTs approximately in each proposal, which is
Yeah.
not bad for a D-Rug NFT project.
Agreed. Which I think is positive in light of the fact that we've talked about supporting them to build the DAO. Here's the result, guys, in case anybody's curious. Like,
Yeah,
what
I
did Grape
think
do to help? There you go.
one of the things we need to look into is that floor sweep that we started, and we did, I think, $4,000 worth or less. Maybe we could repurpose the remaining funds to help their DAO maybe become like a great sub DAO. We could give them their DAO could get that USDC, which is controlled by the NFT holders. Because I read they want to do like upgrades to their artwork. They're partnering with another DAO, 21 DAO, to do one of one NFTs. It's an option. It's an option that we could definitely look into getting them more involved into Grape. Like I was on one of their DAO calls and I really liked. I mean, this is not like related to organization or like how they're doing the proposal or anything, but the music was playing during the DAO call and it was at a lower volume. It was pretty nice, pretty cool.
Yeah, I see that as a benefit and positive to show, are we accomplishing the task that we had set out to do as a DAO, right? And just looking back at the result, I would say that this is a positive. And I think our contribution as Grape to help the Bears DAO get there is something that would definitely be something I'm proud of, touting to others, as long as the Bears DAO feels comfortable, circulating something that would say,
I think
Here's
we
how
need to look
here's how it's an
into,
NFT. Sorry, go ahead.
we need to look into the partnership potential with the Bear DAO. You know, working closer with Grape, especially on on the creative side. Um, they 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 have talent. The Samo DAO also, their initiatives with their research is very interesting to look into what they're doing. So I think we should look into how we could collaborate with these other DAOs in Solana. So if we support each other, you know, we can all get value.
Agreed. Definitely agreed. I think that's awesome, and I wanted to just recap it so that people know, you know, those things didn't just fall off the wagon. They're ongoing, and they're positive developments as a result of them. And I think the Bear DAO is happy about it, being able to have a DAO, because I think we helped them address a significant issue on their end to get there. Just my two grapes.
Yeah, and we also got the opportunity to learn more about how NFT voting works, how it's different from token-based voting. It's a different kind of community. Like when you have an NFT, and it's kind of like your identity, and you're voting with it. It's a different dynamic. So it's interesting to understand how these communities work and what they need on the tool side.
Yep. Agreed. Definitely a worthwhile endeavor to understand, in my opinion. I like it. All right. I didn't have anything else to raise. I'm going to be presenting a update for the proposal for engagement rewards, DAO governance rewards proposals plus voters plus etc. Yeah, that now has become another thing that I get to dust off again and see if I can come up with something that makes sense, at least as a starting template, and then we can go from there.
Awesome work. Looking forward to seeing your proposal.
Me too.
Yeah, can't wait,
It's
Archimedes. Can't wait.
it's been a draft in discourse for some time now, and I want to simplify it because I know if Dynite looks at it and he's not happy, I have problems.
Just buy Dynite. Buy him all.
Dynite needs to sign off, man. If Dynite every time. That's right. I'll call you out when I need to, bro. That's right. That's what I'm trying to cut the 50% before you tell me to. So I'm working on it, making it simple. And I might have to keep my formula short and sweet, even though it does need to take certain things into account. But just so you guys, understand, and you hear this before the proposal comes out, the way I'm thinking about it holistically, the amount of grape that's taken into account as participating are the people that vote and or propose, right? To be eligible, you have to vote, right? Over your entire history as a grape member. And then looking at the individual epochs, we'll try and figure something out that makes it easier to do that. But short and sweet, there's a pool for rewards. That pool is allocated according to a percentage of how much grape is staked in realms versus how much is actually voting. And so the pool itself will only open up as much as if there's grapes staked, everybody needs to participate to get all the rewards. So it'll only release depending on the total amount being used. That way, no single entity could ever achieve pulling the entire pool, for example. That's just one part of it, just to put it into context. But more to come. And if you guys don't like it, I'm sorry, but good night, Dynite. With that said, I'll stop talking here and give everybody back their time so that we can go and enjoy that. Anybody wanting to try and follow what's going on the reputation session with Civic and
Archimedes,
go ahead.
what would you do if you were an individual with 600k and you wanted to improve your wealth?
What pool?
Huh?
The pool I would so
Now,
the
what
only
would
way
you
to
do if you had 600k
yeah,
and you would want to improve your wealth?
my wealth being
To
how
keep
much
your
grape
wealth
I hold,
and
right?
yeah, it's kinda
Look,
related to it.
well, I think the activity over time, the activity speaks for itself if you take into context all the things that happen. So if you look at the entire history of all the votes that have happened on community proposals, right? Look at all those votes and look at how many votes you have as an individual, right? You want to try and incentivize giving people grape based on the fact that they keep up with proposals over time, right?
Wait, you're not responding to my question.
Oh, yes, I am.
How? Is that how gonna improve your wealth?
Be active in the DAO. That's the only way I can move my wealth forward, right? I need to do so. Whatever I want to do, I need to do it in a way that is beneficial for everybody. I'm not going to do something just because I want to get the wealth, right? I don't want to come up with a model that I know how to go about feeding the system and taking the grape because I went in and I made a proposal to get it. No.
No, the
Or I
system
had
needs to
enough.
be fed himself first, then the subsystem, let's say.
I think about it in terms of making sure I get rewarded fairly, but I also make sure that no one else gets rewarded unfairly, right?
What's fair?
Fair is we all get rewarded something for the amount of activity and participation that we have in the DAO.
Oh, so yeah, I agree. The DAO can award
Yeah.
something, doesn't mean to be big. But if
That's
it's not
just
big,
one
it's
area.
not attractive.
Right. Agreed.
Okay.
Look, the big part, right? The big part is a topic of over time. One-time payments that give you double your amount of grape. If I had 600,000, and this model were allowing you to get another 600,000 for voting in one epoch, that's not going to be sustainable. And it's also not going to make me want to participate next epoch because I got enough grape this epoch. I'm good. I don't need to continue, right?
So
I need to participate every epoch over time to keep up. And if I don't, I'll still get some emission for the work I've already done, but it's going to drop over time because others are going to be active and I'm not going to be.
yeah, I agree.
Right?
So as a community member, you're only gonna participate for the incentives.
You're not only going to participate for the incentives, but you will get an incentive for participating. Right?
Will you still be a community member if there's no incentives?
Well, let's put it this way. How many people are actually being active today that aren't getting anything for it? There are at least 18 of us. At least 18 of us. At least. And I'm saying at least because that's how many wallets voted on the last proposal that had 10 million grape for that proposal, right? So I look at it as it needs to be self-sustaining and it needs to be logical and it needs to be something where somebody who's new that comes in can catch up to the rest of us. If someone stops working, it transitions the value to them instead of it being me being plutocratic and just continuing to earn grape for no reason, right? And I'll continue to earn for all the work I've already done, in theory, right? If I want to get that far. But the simple way of putting it is perform over time. Do participate over time. I'm not doing it for the rewards, but because I'm doing it, I should be rewarded. That's the point, right?
Agree.
And you should be rewarded, and anybody else that's doing this work should be rewarded. The amounts are going to be where we're going to start debating, right? Oh, that's not enough for me to do a proposal. Oh, that's not enough for me to get voting results. Because we're talking about it in one epoch. We're not talking about it over time, right? And I think that's the challenge. We need to be looking at this with a 96-month lens of over the next 96 months, how
That's
do I
the
make sure
second
somebody's starting?
challenge. There's like a primary challenge, which is to keep self-sustaining.
Exactly. And
So you
but the
can keep
answer
doing
is,
the challenges.
right. It's the same thing as proof of history though, right? Proof of history isn't really a time-based discussion. It's an activity-based discussion that informs time, which is the part that I always found interesting because it involves the progress that happens on machines, right? And the activity that happens on those machines being codified into this is the passage of time because there's things happening in these machines, right? And for those that know proof of history, it's the primary consensus of Solana, let's say, that Yakovenko came up with, right? And it solves a computer problem. And I'm no dev here, but one of the problems is keeping things in sync for time. The only way to do that is activity based in our community, as far as I can tell. So promoting the idea of people continuing to perform, being rewarded for the work they've already done, but that it diminishes over time based on how much activity is going on in the ecosystem and whether or not they're keeping up with it, right? I shouldn't be rewarded for the same amount for the proposals I made this epoch, next epoch, if everybody else is making double the amount of proposals and votes and keeping up, right? But I should be rewarded for what I've already done. And instead of getting all that grape in one bucket, in one payment, I'll get it as residual. It'll come to me every epoch until the metrics keep diminishing the amount of grape I get over time. So it drops off if I don't keep up with what's going on. So anybody who's active can, earn to gain more governance control. And then those that aren't will slowly diminish over time. And that way it's fair. It's a fair handoff where you don't have to factor in time. You can factor in the activity. It's the total amount of votes that we have for all users. My votes divided by that whole amount. If those votes keep going up and mine don't, I don't keep the same proportion, the same percentage of grape I deserve as a result of the rewards for what I've contributed thus far. And I can add in a qualifier to say if I didn't vote in the epoch, or if I did, or if it's a certain threshold where I only voted once out of 50 proposals, I can make that a percentage and say I only deserve this amount because of that. I could go that deep. I don't want to go that deep right now. I want to just make it something that is fair. The amount of rewards are dictated by how much grape gets put into. People just staking in realms isn't enough to say that they're participating in governance. They have to be voting, and they have to be, that's separate from the community emission, membership emission that we've talked about before. But keeping it simple, right? Keeping it as simple as possible, and also thinking about it in terms of we want the entire community to participate. Every single grape, every one grape that gets added to the governance pools for participation, if it participates, it releases more of the rewards. So it incentivizes everybody to do the work, to do it, right? And if more people do it, it releases more of the rewards so that everybody is fairly rewarded, right? So that it doesn't reduce itself over time. There's all these little details, right? And I'm no math whiz, but I can put together a formula if I take all these factors in and play around with it to make sure, and I project out 96 months to make sure, how is somebody getting 500% for doing one proposal? And, and the votes didn't change. I may have gone too deep into it, but the point is the overtime factor how much is emitted as a result of the participation of everybody together, how much their individual contributions matter in terms of the overall contributions. Those three things alone give you some idea of how to flow the grape fairly, where no one can make the decision. It's not, you can't really game it. You could try and create multiple accounts, but it involves, additional work for you to try and game that system. And it probably wouldn't give you any additional value because there's going to be a slight adjustment for the stake weighting to make sure that those that have and continue to grow their stake over time also get, rewarded a very small percentage more, just so that you can always keep it fixed on using one account is better than using multiple accounts to try and do it. There's all these little details, right? How many governance wallets there are, how many shit. I'm going too deep into it, but I think you get it, right? Did I lose you?
No,
Awesome.
I get it, but
Yeah.
there's always that thing that it's missing, and it does. What you're saying, it doesn't work without that thing missing. And I'm not gonna say.
I know. Ping me to let me know what you think, because I'll include you as a contributor to the discussion. If anybody has any ideas about how they would want to reward governance, feel free, and I'll always include your name as part of the contribution that's being made. This isn't a bounty, right? So I'm not looking for a reward here for myself. This is just, let's put a model in place that solves that one problem to start, because we need that. I think we need it. We've been working without it for so long. I don't think anybody would stop doing it if it wasn't there, but I'm pretty sure it'll incentivize people to do more if they knew they were going to get rewarded for it. That's all for now. And I could say all that because Dynite wasn't listening, but when he's here, I'm going to have to say that. I'm going to have to say that in like 3 sentences, no more than 10 words per sentence.
Basically. I mean, we're hitting our 2-hour mark. I think everybody's
Yes,
good
sir.
for today.
Yep. CryptoPause, I will definitely hit you up once I have a final, I think a final view.
We also talked about the current issues we have on Discord, so yeah, I think we have enough for today.
Yep. Yeah, I think there's a lot to think about and come up with answers to. So next steps, let's figure out a general idea of budget. Let's have the community start thinking about community emissions. Let's start talking about that, and also the mint discussion is going to have to come to at least a close on what we're doing for the community is something that we need to figure out to get that next phase into the mix. I think emitting whatever amount of grape needs to be emitted, or putting it into an account that it could be decided on later is fine. It's just, this is the next step, so we might as well start getting ahead of that curve so we know what we need to do.
Yeah, I mean, these topics are gonna be revisited Tuesday because most of the DAO community members are not here, so.
Yep. I mean, most. We have all we need, right? We have 9. We had 10 before of the most legendary DAO members that I can think of here today, and we're missing the other 10, 20 legendary members. But anyway, I'll stop there. Thank you all very much for taking the time. I don't know if anybody has anything else that they want to address or remind what we need to be focusing and working on, but sincerely appreciate everybody taking the time today.
Yeah, it's everything for me. If everyone
Take care,
wanna...
everyone. Enjoy Breakpoint.
Yes.
Also enjoy end of the weekend.
Obrigado.
Yeah, to you as well. Obrigado.
Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great Sunday.
You too.
Bye.